Hi Nalini. What a pleasant surprise to have Nalini over here. Such a young creator, I must say. A creator who has immense knowledge and creator who has created magic through her books. I'm really pleased to have Nalini today in Unplugged with Usha, which has done innumerous work in the field of writing. So I'm definitely privileged to have Nalini here and interview her in this whole episode.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this edition.
So thank you, Nalini, for being here. I just wanted to ask you one thing. Where did this idea of writing a book begin to you?
Probably it goes back to writing essays in school. My mother used to help me at that time, and when I moved into, I think, college and I studied literature, I began enjoying the process of writing.
Okay.
That's where probably I explored inside and I realized that there is a lot of creativity that I could bring out through words. That's where it began.
No, but I'll tell you, let me ask you one thing. To get it to a level of publishing books and then, enjoying to write on a content is very difficult and consistently. Okay, it is not about just writing. All of us write. I think I have even my love poems that I have written when I was a teenager. But then it just dies and vanishes off with that. But what is that kind of a thing that made you to write books of this thing, and what is the nature of content that we're looking at?
So the nature of content is mostly children's books.
Okay.
Although I say they are children's books, they are read by anyone who is 8 plus, right up to 100 plus.
Oh, that's good.
So that is the range in terms of age group that I tend to cover. And it begins with a love for fiction, I guess, because you're able to create different worlds. You're able to create different characters and you can inhabit that world, live the life of so many characters. I enjoyed that, which is how I thought I should get into writing.
Okay.
And I began working with television. So I've done a lot of work across different media. So I guess that also helps because you understand how to write for different mediums and different formats.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Even though I began with television, I had the option of going into production or costume designing or direction. There are so many options, or documentary filmmaking, anything. But I realized that content, creating characters, character bibles, that was what really interested me. So that's where the journey began.
Okay. So how do you get into the intricacies of each character? Let's say you might get inspired through some character. These are all live characters that you'll come across in life, am I right?
Yeah.
How do you really try to put that into a story form, and then how does it move along?
You just have to be observant. That's very important for a writer. You have to observe the minutest of details of people around you, the way they speak, the mannerisms. Probably they repeat a particular phrase very often, or they smile a particular way. All of that goes into character building. In terms of understanding how to work around characters, I think I would give credit to my experience with Tinkle magazine. The comics magazine.
That's the comic magazine which used to come.
Exactly.
Before, yes. I think we all used to wait for the Tinkle to come, and grab the Tinkle around and then flip through.
So that is where I realized what it meant to work with a lot of these legacy characters which had already been created, several years before I went there and began working. So Shikari Shambu, Supandi, Tantri the Mantri, all these favorite characters, you had to make sure that
originality is,
yes, the
core
originality
is maintained,
yes, and the nostalgia factor is also maintained. And your stories also had to appeal to grown-ups who had read the magazine as a child and to newer audiences who were growing up eventually in that time.
So it is quite a lot of a task for you when you are there creating that character, am I right? Do you go into a pensive mood and then sit and write? Or what does a writer do?
I don't really have any method, unfortunately, however boring that sounds. I've heard that a lot of people do go off to Himalayan retreats and write.
I know.
Yeah, you see a lot of Instagram posts with the Himalayas in the background and this Kulhad chai and a book and pen, spectacles. It's a very good frame, but a lot of writers have to work in the middle of a bustling city.
Correct.
So you have to focus on your work. Sometimes I listen to music, really bad music, because then I can focus on the work and not listen to the lyrics and the music.
Beautiful.
So there are various
ways of For me, probably everything, like even I'm a writer basically, but then I write for parents, especially parents who are dealing with the teenage problems. For me, it happens at middle of the night. You'll get some brainwave, and then you just wake up at night, and then you realize that it should not vanish the next day morning. Maybe I might have my mobile next to me, and then I'll just put it out, just a kind of a few words, so that next day morning I remember, okay, what I thought about. I think that was something that really gives me a thing. Or for me, just as I say, it need not be a retreat, but even if I sit in my garden and then look around, and then most of my speeches are done. So impressive. With so many books that you have written. How long does it take for you to pick up a book and write?
Each book is different.
Correct.
There is no
hard and fast.
Yes, hard and fast deadline as such. A simple book can take 2 years. A difficult book I could finish, say, maybe in 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
If your research is in place, then the writing becomes easier. Then it's much faster that way.
Okay.
But it is the research that will take more time than the writing process.
Correct.
Writing is definitely not easy, but research takes a lot of time.
Then how do you take it forward to a publisher?
With me, I think I was somewhat lucky. There was a call on Facebook and your friend sent it to me and she said, why don't you try? It was just a word at that time, the idea, and I wrote to the editor, the commissioning editor there, and they loved the idea and they said, okay, go ahead, send us a proposal and we'll see how it works out.
Okay.
And I think when I pitched, I exactly had 4 words in mind, which is what made it to the book as well. It was storytelling traditions of India. Okay. That is what became this book.
Okay.
So it's about, a lot of us keep talking about storytelling and how, India is a storytelling hub, but nobody really went into the origins of these storytelling traditions, because as a child, I have, sat on the sands of my native place and listened to Katha Kalakshepam and a lot of such regional forms which we know as art, but we don't realize that they really tell stories. So I've taken one particular storytelling tradition from each state and union territory of the country, and of course
that's beautiful.
You have characters.
That's a beautiful one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have
all
these
the
main characters.
Oh, that's amazing. I like the article that you wrote on Abdul Kalam, Shri Abdul Kalam.
Yeah.
How did you hit upon that kind of characters?
So I have many first books. This was the first book that I pitched, but Abdul Kalam was the first book that was commissioned to me.
Oh.
And because I had the experience
Can you show the book?
Working at Tinkle, I was familiar with the whole format of comics and graphic novels.
Yeah.
So Campfire Graphic Novels is the publisher, and they checked if this is something I would be interested in, and this happened right after we lost him. So it was a book that had to come out that year. So we worked really fast. The research was difficult because being a scientist, a lot of the information was classified, and if it has to be a comic, it will have to have illustrations.
Especially when you're writing about the President of India, you've got to be very, very careful about the feedback and the data that you're giving it.
Right.
It has to be very authentic. And especially we being in the field of education, I think we're very closely connected with Abdul Kalam ji for everything.
Absolutely.
I've seen him thrice, not once or twice. And every time that we met him, it was a different feeling altogether. He would only entertain the children In the first 10 rows or the first few rows would be allotted only for children, whichever school they are from. And though we want to sit, right in front, he would never allow us to do. But we teachers used to sit at the back and then watch him. I think. But the connect that he had, the simple language that he had, I think a man of simplicity with a great wisdom. I think that is something that is we can really admire about Abdul Kalam. What is this Navadurga beta?
Yeah, so this has been published by Puffin Books, Penguin Random House India. And we realized that in India, many times we celebrate festivals, but both parents and children don't really know why we celebrate certain festivals, what is the significance, the cultural significance. And Navratri was one such festival. And not many people know that on each day or night of Navratri, a particular form of the goddess Durga is celebrated. So the book is basically about the Navadurga, the 9 forms who are worshipped and celebrated during the festival. So each chapter deals with one form of the goddess. It also makes a cultural connection in terms of how Navratri is celebrated in a different part or region of the country.
How are you able to put in those authentic information into it?
It is difficult, but with folklore and mythology, you don't really have authentic information. It has been passed down through generations orally.
Correct.
As far as the stories of the goddesses are concerned, there are sacred texts, but then there are oral versions as well. My endeavor is always to also focus on the oral versions, because they usually get sidelined.
The originality has to be maintained, am I right?
Absolutely.
You cannot have anything of your version.
It's debatable, because with oral storytelling you can tweak.
You can tweak.
That is the whole purpose of storytelling.
Okay.
In a sense, you don't change the essence or the core of the story. So for example, a lot of stories of Durga are technically difficult for children to understand. They may not even be age appropriate if we look at the younger age group. So as a writer, my task then is to make sure I pick parts that work well for oversimplify sometimes. I think each book has its own journey, and sooner or later it will find.
I think it is.
Its
I think
mark.
India is also picking up in this ground, with a lot of organizations which are really coming up to revive and then revisit and rewire with the old culture that we are looking at. I'm sure that this has to really, get into the minds of the people, basically.